today I'd like, in inviting some thought about the power of music for us all in the world, I also want to lead to a little bit of reflection on the critical value of a music subject area, of a study of music within any university that wants to maintain its highest ideals. Here we see the famous French composer Claude Debussy in his three-piece suit at the beach. And when I mention Debussy, I imagine some of you think of this usual association. Debussy was a musical impressionist, maybe the most famous. And in that sense, his music is a little bit like Monet's painting, as appears on countless CD covers like these. And the mood, the effect of that music, we might say, in this last particularly crass piece of musical marketing, is Debussy for daydreaming, music to caress your innermost thoughts. Now, I have nothing against daydreams or caresses. Bring them on. But I wonder if this kind of dreamy, perfumey, naturey, pretty type stuff doesn't maybe deflects us a little bit from the full human interest that might be available in Debussy's music. So I'm going to invite you to hear from the middle of one of three pieces, in fact. And I've given you a little guide to your hearing so that we can just ask a little bit more precisely what's going on. You're going to hear a bit of a dance, really short bit of a dance, which breaks off quite suddenly. You're going to hear a military march, beginning very far away and coming very close. You are then going to hear the return of the dance to combine with the march. And then the march is going to break off and we'll go back to dancing. So let's try, let's have a listen. Of experience was that? How did that experience feel? Are these marchers and dancers perfectly happy together? Might there be a bit of a collision, a bit of a conflict, a bit of a question about how these things go together? And of course, you can't answer that on a single hearing. I do invite you to listen again. I think today, as a way to develop our hearing, I can suggest that one thing we can do in a university, we can research to see if we can enrich our hearing. Let's do a little bit of musicology. One place to start is with the composer. He's not going to have the last word, but he did give us a nice hint here. He referred This piece, he said, was inspired by a memory of, quote, a long ago fête nationale in the Bois de Boulogne, just outside of Paris. Here's a visual memory of a fête nationale that happened in Paris about 16 years before this piece was written. In fact, when Debussy was still a student in Paris, so he could very well have been there. Is there any French folks in the room? Can you tell me what fête nationale means? Precisely. When would we expect that to happen? Exactly, the 14 juillet. Why? The storming of the Bastille in 1789, henceforth honored, especially in Third Republic France, as the moment of the national festival. So we have this kind of already a little hint of revolutionary energies underneath here. And what I find particularly interesting about this particular image is how it captures perfectly, again, that same contrast, that same question or conflict that we heard in Debussy's music. We have one little image of orderly military marchers with their military band. We have a much wilder round dance in the middle. And here again, we see now Debussy's up against a question that's really quite fascinating for a democracy. How do we celebrate the nation? Do we celebrate its power, its order, its control? Do we celebrate the revolutionary energies of the free democratic people? How do those things go together? Can they go together? So that's a pretty good start, I think. But I still have a question. I have a question about that long ago memory. Why would Debussy be asking that question? That kind of question? 16 years later, when he's actually writing that piece. Here's another image, a rather more complicated image. We're going to have to get a little bit more serious with the musicology here. Dutch cartoon, February 1898. Debussy's hard at work on his piece. Here's the translation of the line at the bottom. Satan is leading them. The bugles sound. Again, we've got that military music in there. The fanfare sounds, everyone turns back. And we've got this devil over it all, and this rather aggressive image of a mob. These are exactly the years of the Dreyfus Affair, one of the most severe political crises experienced by France, then and now. And we see some of the important figures in this cartoon. There's Monsieur Alfred Dreyfus himself, the Jewish army captain who was convicted for treason on forged evidence and exiled to Devil's Island. We also see over here the writer, Émile Zola, who published an accusation, an open letter to the President of the Republic, saying, I accuse the military court of injustice and of rank anti-Semitism. And we also see in the middle something very hard to see, liberté, égalité, fraternité, the motto of the Republican polity, the motto of revolutionary freedom. Vive l'armée, the motto of state power, of state control. So you see that these powers that are being summoned by this music go to the very heart of what it means to be human in a democracy, what it means to be free, what it means to respect human values. Now I wonder, I'm going to hope, I might even assume that some of you are sensing a few resonances, that this long ago stuff is not really over. Here's a couple of resonances that came to my mind. These are loose historical parallels, as are all historical parallels. But they can show that some of these questions never go away, or more precisely, keep coming back in new, vivid examples. So I'm going to turn to a couple of recent final examples to show how these questions are still being asked through music. P.J. Harvey, Let England Shake, her protest album, prize-winning protest album, brilliant protest album of 2011, protesting the military adventurism of the Bush-Blair years.
How is our glorious country now, not by iron plows? How is our glorious country now, not by iron plows? Our land is plowed
Now I'm going to say maybe this is a somewhat simpler case than the Debussy because it's explicit protest. There's no doubt about the standpoint about this on the war. But I would suggest to you it's also bringing some of those subtler questions about the power of music. Not just the blatantly ironic way it slaps in that military bugle in a way that doesn't fit. I think we're supposed to be irritated by that. But I think also the way that the shake and shimmy of those dance rhythms somehow shade and elide together with the image of those marching feet, as if she somehow captured at once the same kind of question about our willingness to participate in collective action, possibly without thinking it through. And that again is a similar point for my final example. I'm going to show the trailer from American Sniper, currently I think still in the cinemas, not currently available on DVD. Let's just watch that and I'll offer some reflections on it.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. Would you be surprised if I told you that the Navy has credited you with over 160 kills? Do you ever think that you might have seen things or done some things over there that you wish you hadn't?
Oh, that's not me, no.
What's not you?
I don't tell you enough. I'm so proud of you. You're such a great father.
So you're not worried about what might happen?
I'm willing to meet my creator and answer for every shot that I took.
Don't pick it up. Drop it.
I'm ready to come home.
It's amazingly manipulative stuff. Now, as you can see, this trailer presents a film, invites us to think of the film with some moral complexity. The glories of war, the horrors of war, the costs of war. It gestures in that direction, at least. But apologies to those of you who haven't seen it. The music for the final scene, the real-life funeral footage of the sniper Chris Kyle, blatantly, obscenely, unambiguously demands that we celebrate the heroism of this individual. It's a souped-up Hollywood last post, etc. You can imagine the rest. Imagine angelic voices and heavenly strings as well, and then you kind of got some idea. It insists that we share the mourning of this man as a hero. And let's be clear, his heroism comes from his success as the member of an invading army in killing lots of people. One of the people he kills is a woman who tries to attack US Marines with a homemade pipe bomb. She is doing in actuality what he is only doing in paranoid propagandistic fantasy, trying to protect her family and her country. Needless to say, she does not get a state funeral and a souped-up Hollywood fanfare. She gets cursed on her death as a bitch. Now, I don't want to debate the merits of this film, and I definitely don't want to stray into the terrain of the Iraq War. But what I want to use that example for is simply for my wider question, to confront the susceptibility of all of us to this power of music. I hate to admit it, but when I see the last scene of that film, I still almost can't prevent myself being moved, even as I feel soiled by the film. And that's what we have to confront. The power of music to seduce our participation in various emotional experiences, to blank our minds and make it feel like it's okay and even heroic to do atrocious things to other families and other countries in defense of our own. Like dancing, like marching, music of mourning also has the power to suggest how we should value what it is to be human, and indeed who we should value as human. So I'm going to conclude now in two parts. Part one, another thing we do at university is homework, or at least some of us do. So I'm simply going to invite you to attune yourselves to think about the music that you encounter. You're going to encounter celebratory music at your graduation. You're going to encounter more of those infectious dance beats at the student union. Just an invitation to you. Here's your homework. Ask yourself, what kind of person is this music asking me to be? What ideal of human pleasure or ambition or power is it involving me in? What ideologies is it inviting me to participate with? That's your homework. My second conclusion allows me to touch on the topic of this TEDx event. We are crossing a Rubicon. Sometimes I think we've already crossed it. The university is becoming more and more enthralled to a vocation, practical, instrumental, functional idea of education. One that can be measured in pounds and pence, to put it most simply. If we are going to continue to negotiate robust ideas of democracy, of freedom, of universal humanity, we can't just educate our heads. We also have to educate our hearts. Now, I cannot pretend that the music subject area is the only place in the university that you can do that, but I do suggest it's one of the best. In fact, I might go so far as to say it is the very heart of the university. Thanks very much.